The House will come to order. Members, please take your seats. Sergeant at Arms.
The House is now in session. All persons not entitled to privileges on the floor, please retire to the gallery.
The members will rise and be led in prayer by the Reverend Andrew E. Casper, pastor of the South County Church in Lorton, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, led by the gentleman from Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox.
Lord, we say thanks for the privilege it is to serve you by serving the people of this great state. You've chosen every leader here and appointed them in this capacity. The Holy Scriptures declare all authority comes from God, and those in positions of authority have been placed there by God. This is a heavy responsibility you have given each person here, but you have not left them alone. You are with them even now. We pray for wisdom to be released in this assembly today. Many times there is uncertainty, so we pray for divine guidance today in every decision. We pray for righteousness to prevail here. The Holy Scriptures tell us that when there is moral rot within a nation, its government topples easily. But wise and knowledgeable leaders bring stability. May there be great stability here because of the wisdom you give. May the country and other nations around us be astounded by the wisdom and leadership of this assembly. It is in your mighty and holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The members will answer the roll call by indicating their presence on the electronic voting board. Clerk will close the roll.
Mr. Speaker, a quorum is present.
Pursuant to House Rule 3, I've examined and approved the Journal of the House of Delegates for January 26, 2016. Motions and resolutions under Rule 39 are now in order. Does the clerk have any announcements or communications?
Just one reminder or request to the body. We are trying to finalize planning for this weekend's commemorative session. If you have not responded and are planning on going, please do so today. We'll have further information for those who will be attending coming out later this afternoon or first thing in the morning. That's all I have, sir.
The gentleman from Giles, Mr. Yost.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, joining us around the Capitol today and in the gallery, if I can ask them to stand, are more than 100 advocates from all corners of Virginia participating in Mental Health Advocacy Day with the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Virginia, Vocal Virginia, Voices for Virginia's Children, Mental Health America Virginia, and the Campaign for Children's Mental Health. They are spending the day meeting with their elected officials, sharing their stories, and advocating for adequate resources to improve and strengthen the mental health system for children and adults. With half of all lifetime cases of mental illness beginning by age 14, it is critical that we raise awareness about mental illness and lessen the stigma that prevents people from seeking help early on. They're concerned about the nearly 25% of adults in Virginia's jails with mental illness and the overwhelming number of youth in the juvenile justice system who have a mental health disorder. They're concerned about children's and young adults' mental health needs, particularly those in transition years of 18 to 25, when mental illness often presents. We all have a duty to address mental health needs, to let those with mental health disorders know that we care about them just as much as we care about those with heart disease or cancer. As we address mental health needs during this legislative session and beyond, it is my hope that we will work together to make much-needed improvements in access to care and the availability of community-based services. What we do will have a lasting impact on the lives of thousands of children, adolescents, and adults with mental health disorders. I hope it will be the pleasure of the body to give them a warm house welcome.
We're pleased to have the mental health advocates with us today, and thank you so much for all that you do for our Commonwealth. The gentleman from Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for an introduction.
Gentleman may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to recognize members of the Virginia Chamber of Commerce and other local and regional chambers of commerce who are here today for Chamber Day at the Capitol. The Virginia Chamber is a nonpartisan business advocacy organization that works as a catalyst for positive change in all areas of economic development and competitiveness in Virginia. They're the largest business organization in the Commonwealth with 23,500 members. Today, there are over 33 local and regional chambers of commerce walking the halls from all around Virginia. Let me remind you that tonight they have their annual reception in the Old Dominion Assembly. We know that the free enterprise system is the best way to enhance economic competitiveness of Virginia and our nation. So, Mr. Speaker, please join me in welcoming the Virginia Chamber of Commerce on the day of the General Assembly. I think most of them, because of the size of the group, are in the various House rooms, but I hope the House will give them a warm round of applause.
The gentleman from Scott, Mr. Kilgore.
Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, I rise for an introduction.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined today by the Student Development Advisory Board from UVA Wise. They're in the gallery. I hope you'll give them a warm house welcome.
We're very pleased to have the students from Wise, and we thank you for taking time to be with us today. The gentlewoman from Richmond City, Ms. McQuinn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for introduction, the purpose of introduction.
Gentlewoman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and fellow colleagues, we are joined today by members and representatives from the Better Housing Coalition and from Children's Home Society. The Better Housing Coalition is the Greater Richmond largest nonprofit community development corporation and has been serving the metro area for more than 25 years. Better Housing Coalition has 15 affordable rental communities and 200 homes for first-time home buyers. The Children's Home Society is a nonprofit that has been creating strong, healthy families and lifelong relationships with Virginia children for more than 115 years. They have found families for more than 13,000 children. These organizations are collaborating to support programs that will create better outcomes for the Commonwealth's children who are waiting to be adopted and youth who are aging out of foster care. I am honored to introduce them today, this morning, and the community that they represent. I ask that they would stand and be recognized by the House, and I ask that the House would join me in welcoming them to the Capitol. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very pleased to have the visitors with us today. Hope you enjoy your time in the Capitol. The gentleman from Hanover, Mr. Peace.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Speaker, I rise for introduction.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, we have visiting us today families from all over the state who participate in home visiting family support programs. If they're in the gallery, I'd ask them to stand. The programs represent CHIP, healthy families, parents as teachers, and resource mothers. Some of the nurses, parent educators, and counselors who deliver these services are also here as part of the Home Visiting Consortium. Not all families have the experience or network of support to provide basic parenting skills, so these programs work with families caught in the cycle of poverty, but who are committed to creating a better life for their children and themselves. By intervening early, using proven best practices, home visitors work hand in hand with parents, preparing them to be their children's first and most important teacher. And we know that the data works, and I'm very proud that this House, through its budget over the last few years, has made significant investments in these areas. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you give these fine folks a warm welcome to the Capitol today.
The gentleman from Chesapeake, Mr. Leftwich.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a motion.
Gentleman has the...
Mr. Speaker, my motion is to call a joint resolution out of order. It's not on today's docket, but there's an event occurring in about a week, this weekend that where I want to honor the Chesapeake Woman of the Year.
Okay. Clerk will report a resolution.
House Joint Resolution number 184, commending Jackie Moore.
Gentleman from Chesapeake, Mr. Lethwich.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that the body pass approve the motion.
Shall the resolution be agreed to? As many as favor that motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The resolution is agreed to. Gentleman from Chesapeake.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Simon.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, as we heard yesterday, our constituents sent us here to Richmond to work together, to solve problems and generally do what we can to make their lives better. Sometimes, and on some issues, it's not really easy to work together, whether it's because we have fundamental disagreements about what the best way forward is, whether a particular problem is worth solving given our limited resources, or in some cases, whether we really have a problem at all. I'd like to spend just a couple of minutes today describing a problem I think hopefully we can all agree needs to be addressed, and ask for your support in advancing a bipartisan solution, working together not as a Republican caucus or a Democratic caucus, but as a General Assembly as a body. Over 1 million Virginians owe over $30 billion in student loans. That's an amount that is really rapidly climbing. Interest rates on that debt for many borrowers are sometimes at or in excess of 10%. Now, many of us who own homes and have owned homes and had a mortgage for a while, we may have initially had a mortgage that was at around 8 or 9 or 10%. But I suspect that most of you all that have a mortgage on your house now have an interest rate that's closer to 4.5% or 4%. That's because we've had the opportunity to take that debt, and as interest rates have gone down, we've all taken advantage of the opportunity to refinance that debt and lower our monthly payments. Because when the economy is struggling, we adjust our economic policies to allow people to reduce their debt and free up some money to make payments. Unfortunately, it's often difficult or impossible to refinance many of these federal and private student loans. Now, Senator Warner and others on Capitol Hill are working to change that. You know, after all, this is a problem it's a national problem, and nationally we have over $1.3 trillion in outstanding student loan debt, which makes it now the second largest category of debt in the country, second only to mortgages. Of course, we could wait for Congress to act since it is a national problem, but if we do that, well, we might be here a while waiting for a solution. At the same time, there are about 629,000 Virginia borrowers who would benefit from being able to refinance their existing student loans right now. So, you might ask me, is this a problem that we in the General Assembly can solve? My answer is yes, it is. We can establish a Virginia Student Loan Refinance Authority to be very similar to the Virginia Educational Loan Authority, which existed and thrived in Virginia for over 25 years, sell municipal and state bonds at very, very low rates, and then use that money to offer people an opportunity to refinance their high interest rate student loan debts at lower interest rates. A growing number of states and localities are already taking a similar approach. In Rhode Island, the RISLA, the Rhode Island Student Loan Authority, actually makes money for the state of Rhode Island. It has AAA rated bonds, and it's able to refinance student loan debt at fixed rates as low as 4.4%. 77% of Virginians surveyed support allowing borrowers to refinance their student loan debt, and actually it's 79% of Republicans that say you ought to be able to refinance your student loan debt to get a more competitive interest rate. Montgomery County, Maryland is already doing this. So I want to be clear about a couple things. This is not a bailout. We're not talking about forgiving people's student loans. We're not talking about paying it off for them or allowing them to pay anything less than every penny that they borrowed. But it is possible to make it easier for them to pay that money back by lowering their interest rate, by freeing up money that goes into the economy. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, why should we try and do this? I mean, these 17 and 18 and 19-year-olds who took out these student loans should have known better what they were signing. They should have paid more attention to what these terms were. Why should we help them fix a problem that they made? Well, even if you think that that's a good argument, and I don't necessarily know that I agree with that, because again, these are 17 and 18 and 19-year-olds right out of high school. But even if you believe that, don't do it for the student borrowers. Don't do it for them. Do it for the rest of the economy. Today's Chamber Day. We've had small businesses from all over the Commonwealth here to talk about what we can do to help improve the business climate. Do it for those small businesses, because if we allow these student loan borrowers to free up $200, $300, $400 a month in excess interest, that's money they can use to start to form households, to buy cars, to save for down payments on a house. The American Association of CPAs says that 1/3 of college students right now have so much debt, they plan to move back in with mom and dad after college instead of forming their own household. So we want those young folks, those young students, those college graduates out forming households, out buying cars, out buying homes, out spending their money in the economy, not sending all that money up to student loan interest. So it would be my hope that we do this for the 1 million, not just for the 1 million Virginians who have a lot of student loan debt, not just for the 630-some thousand that could benefit from refinancing, but do it for everyone in Virginia and every business in Virginia that would benefit if we could free up that money, get that cash into the economy, and stimulate our Virginia economy. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
The gentlewoman from Fairfax, Ms. Fillercorn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for an introduction.
The gentlewoman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, it's my pleasure to introduce to you, either in the gallery or somewhere around Capitol Square, supporters of the Healthcare for All Virginians Coalition. These individuals represent over 100 Virginian organizations that are currently promoting expanded health care coverage for over 400,000 low-income Virginians. The organization includes religious groups, localities, consumer health groups, hospitals, and healthcare providers. They're currently at the Capitol to release a new document that tells the story of several Virginia families in the Medicaid gap. They're also here to remind us every single day that Virginians need access to quality and affordable health care coverage. They urge us today to close the Medicaid coverage gap. I ask you all, if they're here, to please rise, and I ask for a warm house welcome on behalf of my constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentlewoman from Bedford, Ms. Byron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for an introduction, a short point of personal privilege, and a request.
The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to recognize, I don't know if they're up in the gallery or in another room, if they've made it here yet, but you may have noticed a little bit more of a splash of red and pink throughout the General Assembly building, and a few more women today, but we have the Virginia Federation of Republican Women visiting the Capitol. They have been by the office to discuss issues that are important to them, and I would like to give them a warm welcome. Mr. Speaker, in regards to the point of personal privilege, many of you have noticed the last couple days now that I have been requesting that my seatmate is absent, and I just thought it would be nice to ask all of you if you would please remember him in your prayers. Many of us have had to go through things with a family member. His father is very ill, and he's waiting to be called back to the Lord, and it's a very rough time for him right now. He was hoping, we saw him today, that he'd be able to come back maybe for a day, but he got called back to his father's bedside again. So just wanted to ask all of you to remember him. It's very hard, even though we know we're going to a better place, it's hard to let them go. So Mr. Speaker, the request would be that the journal reflect that my seatmate, the gentleman from Prince William, is absent due to pressing personal business.
Journal so reflect. The gentleman from Loudoun, Mr. Bell.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for an introduction and a point of personal privilege.
The gentleman has the floor.
First, I'd like to introduce visiting us today, if they'd please rise in the gallery, our correctional officers. Virginia correctional officers, please rise. They have a very tough job, and they do every day put themselves in harm's way for the good of the Commonwealth and to keep us safe. We thank you very much, and I ask my colleagues to please join me in a very warm house welcome.
We are honored to have the correctional officers with us here today, and we thank you for all that you do for Virginia and for the local governments around the Commonwealth. Don't allow it.
Mr. Speaker, for my point of personal privilege, standing in the shadow of a massive warship in Norfolk, it's easy to see just how important the U.S. military is to Virginia. In addition to their incredible economic significance, these floating cities stand as perhaps the most visible reminder of our enduring relationship with the armed services. Every Virginian should take pride in the strategic significance of our state and the military infrastructure designed to defend it. Countless of America's most patriotic sons and daughters are trained in the Commonwealth. Many of them, just like myself, were stationed in the Commonwealth and began a lifetime bond with Virginia. That's why 1 in 10 Virginians is a veteran, the largest proportion of any state. And that number is growing faster than anywhere else. This really means two things. First, that we are in an unparalleled position to capitalize on this rich talent pipeline of highly trained professionals. Second, that we have an unparalleled obligation to ensure that veterans in our state have access to the services they need to succeed. Our veterans are the youngest in the nation. They've got the will to work and long and lucrative careers ahead of them. The only thing they're missing is an opportunity. For too long, credentialing requirements have been a hurdle for veterans transitioning back into civilian life. The federal government has already made considerable investments in these highly capable individuals. The military has equipped them with skills befitting the world's most effective fighting force. It's utterly foolish for us to ignore their talents for lack of a civilian certificate. Anyone capable of triaging a wounded soldier on a bloody battlefield a world away is capable of handling the horrors in a Virginia emergency room. They're ready to contribute to the Commonwealth. We just have to let them. Employment is only one piece of a complicated puzzle. Veterans face a unique set of challenges when reacclimating to the demands of civilian life. For too many, assessing the benefits and health care they've already earned grows from rigmarole to impossibility. Virginia veterans have already met their commitments to us. It's time for us to meet our commitments to them. The governor's budget would revamp the Department of Veterans Services and correct serious shortfalls due to lack of funding. We would finally have the staff we need to meet the needs of our growing population of veterans. We could build on the successes of already existing programs like Virginia's Values Veterans and the Virginia Transition Assistance Program. More families could benefit from Virginia Veteran and Family Support Services. This is not a partisan push. I know that my Republican colleagues are as committed as I am to honoring the sacrifices of service members. We made our shared commitment clear when we ended chronic veteran homelessness and housed 1,500 veterans in need. We proved it once again when we opened the Richmond Wing and added 40 beds to the Center and Barfoot Veterans Care Center. I am confident we will do it again this General Assembly session. Virginia veterans don't need a handout, merely a helping hand. I think we can all agree that they richly deserve it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Virginia Beach, Mr. Stolle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for an introduction.
The gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure to recognize in the gallery today the members of the Hampton Roads Association for Commercial Real Estate, H.R. Aker. If they're in the gallery, I'd ask them to rise. They are visiting the Capitol today to meet with their legislators on issues of importance to commercial real estate industry. H.R. Aker represents over 600 members dedicated to promoting the best interest of commercial real estate in the Hampton Roads region. H.R. Aker enjoys open communication with elected leadership on local and state levels and focuses upon presenting an authoritative, unified, and factual industry voice on legislative initiatives that impact the members' ability to successfully conduct the business of commercial real estate. Mr. Speaker, I hope the members will join me in giving these visitors a warm House welcome.
We're pleased to have the visitors from H.R. Aker with us today. We thank you for taking the time to visit in the Capitol. The gentleman from Middlesex, Mr. Hodges.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for an introduction.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, as many of you have noticed, there are a number of white coats walking around the Capitol today and the General Assembly building today. Well, today is Pharmacy Day at the Capitol. Neither snow nor cold can keep these fine, dedicated healthcare professionals away. They are here to advocate for the profession of pharmacy, and they are offering blood sugar, glucose screenings, cholesterol screenings, as well as a drug take-back table so you can dispose of your expired and unwanted medications properly. So clean out your desk drawers and your pocketbooks to dispose of these medications properly. Please join me in welcoming these fine young students from University of Appalachia, Hampton School of Pharmacy, MCV, VCU School of Pharmacy, and Hampton University.
Thank you. The gentleman from Sussex, Ms. Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Gentlewoman has the floor.
Thank you. Each year, state legislators and staff look forward to annual Brunswick Stew Day on Capitol Hill. House Joint Resolution 2 was passed in 2002 that designated the fourth Wednesday in January of each year as Brunswick Stew Day. This year is their 14th year that Brunswick Stew, with the Brunswick County Lake Gas and Tourism Association, will be serving over 1,200 cups of stew prepared by the 2015 Stew Master winners. The winners are Clark Bennett, Kyle G., Roman Zava, and Jessica Elman. Brunswick stew has been a signature dish in Brunswick County. It has become one of our most marketable products for tourism. Visitors come near and far to our annual Taste of Brunswick in October just to sample and purchase Brunswick stew. Brunswick stew made in Southside Virginia is good. Today we also have with us volunteers of the Brunswick County Lake Gaston Tourism Associations who are helping to serve the stew. Carla Martindale, Clara Williams, Nancy Watson, the Honorable Bernard Jones, Mayor of Lawrenceville Bill Harrington, the Honorable Freddie Harrison, Nancy Avery, Lonnie Powell, Sylvia Allen, Tina Pearson, and Bobby Connors. I ask all of these individuals to stand in the gallery. Please give them a warm welcome and thank them for a delicious Brunswick stew.
We're delighted to have the stew makers with us here today, and thank you for all that you do. The gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Keene.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for an introduction, please.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Visiting us in the gallery today, and if they're here, I'd ask them to stand, are members of the elected officials from the town of Vienna. They're actually here to taste the good Brunswick stew, among other reasons. We have the Mayor Lori DeRocco, council members Linda Colbert, Tara Voigt, and Carrie Sinicki, and Howard Springsteen, and other government officials who are here to represent the town in some of our legislation that we're working on, as well as part of the VML Day. So I'd ask the House to give them a warm House welcome. Thank you.
Very pleased to have you visiting with us today. Thank you. The gentleman from Fairfax, Ms. Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for an introduction.
Gentlewoman has the floor.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, we are joined today in the gallery by members of Northern Virginia Family Services who are here to join all the other advocates for child health and family services, especially home health services. This is part of an initiative that is called the Home Visiting Expansion, and they are specifically advocating for the increases in this type of assistance that are in the governor's budget. Please stand so that we can welcome you.
Delighted to have the visitors with us today and hope you enjoy your time here at the Capitol. The gentleman from Manassas, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for an introduction.
Gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, today around the Capitol in attendance, we have members of the Virginia Fraternal Order of Police, and I believe some of them may be in the gallery, and I wish they would stand up if they are here. Visiting today, we have the Sergeant at Arms, Mike Scanlon from Fairfax County. We have the Secretary, David Smith from Winchester, the Chaplain, Scott Williams from Chesapeake, and the Treasurer, Skip Blanchard from Portsmouth. Also in attendance are members of the FOP and law enforcement communities from across the Commonwealth of Virginia. The FOP is made up of roughly 7,500 sworn law enforcement officials from all across the Commonwealth of Virginia. Their membership includes local law enforcement agencies, the state police, sheriff's deputies, our Capitol Police, and corrections officers, just to name a few. They're also supported by an auxiliary lodge that is comprised of family members and an associate lodge comprised of citizens who work to support law enforcement officers. Mr. Speaker, each and every day, these brave men and women from this organization serve and protect the citizens of Virginia. Today is their rally day here at the Capitol. It's their 28th anniversary of Law Enforcement Appreciation Day here at the Capitol. They're here to offer both their opinions for and against proposed legislation that may affect law enforcement in the Commonwealth this year. This evening, they're also hosting a reception at the old City Hall building starting at 5 o'clock, and each and every one of you are invited. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please, these are the men and women who daily in each and every one of our communities have to put on a bulletproof vest and wear a gun to do the job that they do. So I'd ask you to please give the men and women of the Fraternal Order of Priests a warm house welcome.
We are honored to have the members of the Fraternal Order of Police with us today. We thank you for all that you have done and all that you continue to do for our Commonwealth. Thank you for being here today. Are there further motions or resolutions under Rule 39? If not, the clerk will call the calendar.
Calendar for the Virginia House of Delegates for Wednesday, January 27th. Page 1 of the printed calendar. House bills on third reading, uncontested calendar. House Bill 16, House Bill 34, 41, 202, 213, 239, 245, page 4. House Bill 307, 310, 311, emergency. 312, emergency. 314, 324, page 6. House Bill 329, 393, House Bill 435, page 7, House Bill 477, 498, 504, page 8, House Bill 507, 527, 528, 564, 566, 580, page 10, House Bill 583, House Bill 657, House Bill 747, and House Bill 1063 has an emergency clause on it.
Somebody may want to try and get Mr. Ware so we don't have to do this twice. Shall the bills pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 99, no 0.
Ayes 99, no 0. The bills are passed.
Continuing with the calendar, page 11 of the printed version, House bills on third reading, regular calendar. House Bill 2, a bill to require the Department of Environmental Quality to receive approval from the General Assembly for a state plan to regulate carbon dioxide emissions from existing stationary sources prior to submitting the state plan to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for approval.
The gentleman from Charlottesville, Mr. Toscano.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking briefly to the bill.
The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I know we spent a lot of time on this bill yesterday, so I won't retread the old ground. But I want to emphasize to you the following. Under federal law, as it presently exists, the responsibility for developing a clean energy plan rests with the governor of each state and the administrative offices of each state. Now, you might ask yourself why that is the case. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Speaker, the reason it's the case is that the hope is that you could depoliticize the process so you could convene stakeholders who had expertise in the area, people involved with utilities, rate makers, et cetera, to put their heads together, to put together a really good plan that made sense for that particular state. Now, in point of fact, DEQ is already in that process. And the people who are running DEQ are largely nonpartisan people. Some of those folks have served in Republican administrations and Democratic administrations. They're nonpartisan, they're out there to get the job done. So they have convened these stakeholders. Now, what else does the federal legislation say? Well, it says if you don't approve your own plan, if you don't approve your own plan, we will do it for you. Now, who in this room would prefer that the feds impose a clean energy plan on us? Anybody in this room raise their hand? No, I think the answer is no. And who from industry, whether it be the utilities or big industries that rely on electricity, would want the federal government to impose its own plan on Virginia? I think no one. Now, that provision is fixed, and it says if we don't get our own plan, they will do it for us. Now, what does this bill do? Our bill that we're considering today, putting aside for the moment the question of whether it's even constitutional, because there is a separations of power argument on this, it will require the legislature to approve a very technical plan. You are likely to see a clean energy plan that will be that thick in terms of executive summary and that thick in terms of appendices with a lot of technical stuff. And when would we approve it? Think about the timeline. The plan is supposed to be developed around September. And then under the bill, it's given to us. Now, we don't meet until January. So what does that tell you? Have you ever heard the word special session? And special sessions cost money. It costs the taxpayers money, and we're going to come back in a special session to vote on a plan that everybody already knows people aren't going to support on that side of the aisle because there's too much politics involved in it. So if we vote no, we're likely to have the feds do it for us. So if you like the prospects of possible special sessions, gridlock, and loss of control, if you like the idea that the feds should dictate to us our own clean energy plan, and if you think that it'd be better, not for the stakeholders in Virginia, private and public, to develop that plan, then you vote no. And if you think that the stakeholders should be the ones who develop the plan, you have it backwards. See, want to make sure you're paying attention here. So if you want the feds to control, if you want the feds to dictate, you vote yes. And if you want the stakeholders to control and Virginians to control, you vote no. So vote no.
I'm confused now. Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 64, noes 34.
Ayes 64, noes 34. The bill is passed.
Turning to page 12, House Bill 18, a bill to amend and reenact a section of the code relating to the status of a franchisee and its employees as employees of the franchisor.
The gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Sickles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to speak to the bill.
The gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, nobody in this chamber, especially on Brunswick Stew Day, would want to create a situation where workers could be exploited. And I think I like this Brunswick Stew so much, I want to thank the folks, but also introduce a resolution with your help next year to create Brunswick Stew season. I think we need a season for Brunswick Stew. One day is not enough. But nobody would want to create a slippery path to where workers could be exploited. And given a certain fact situation, it is possible that all 100 of us might agree that a franchisor could be a de facto employee. Could possibly have a fact situation all 100 of us could agree upon. Now, how do we make sure that doesn't happen? Well, we have another branch of government, the judicial branch, where parties present facts to. You need a fact finding. Do the facts lead themselves to, once you agree to the facts, they lead themselves to find out, is this franchisor an employer or not? So I think when we pass this bill, if we pass this bill, there's a chance that we could be going down the wrong path and might have unintended consequences. Unintended consequences could occur. But if we're going to go and have a fact finding, why do we need this bill? I mean, this is the current law. We have a lot of case law in this area. When I first came here, it wasn't that long ago, but it seems like a long ago now, the term cluttering up the code was very popular. I heard it a lot when I was sitting here quietly learning this place. Cluttering up the code. We did not want to clutter up the code. But I think this is a bill clutterer. This is language that we don't need. We have case law that manages this. We have judges that can hear the facts, and we can decide whether a franchisor is an employer or not. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would urge everyone to vote a no on this fine bill. Thank you very much.
Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 64, noes 34.
Ayes 64, noes 34. Seems to be a pattern developing.
House Bill 131, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia relating to participation in public school interscholastic programs by students who receive home instruction.
Shall the bill pass? I'm sorry, did you want to unplug your light? Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 58, noes 41.
Ayes 58, noes 41. The bill is passed.
House Bill 259, a bill to prohibit the Board of Education from replacing the standards of learning with Common Core state standards without prior statutory approval.
Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 77, noes 22.
Ayes 77, noes 22. The bill is passed.
House Bill 52, a bill to amend and reenact two sections of the Code of Virginia relating to the Structured Settlement Protection Act.
Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 99, noes 0.
Ayes 99, noes 0. The bill is passed.
House Bill 313, a bill to amend and reenact a section of the Code of Virginia relating to administration of immunizations.
Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 99, noes 0.
Ayes 99, noes 0. Bill is passed.
House Bill 1220, a bill to amend and reenact a section of the Code of Virginia relating to electric utility rate making, recovery of costs of facilities, emergency.
Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 96, noes 0.
Ayes 96, noes 0. The bill is passed.
Turn to page 14 of the printed calendar. House Bill 568, a bill to amend and reenact a section of the Code of Virginia relating to the Virginia Guaranteed Assistance Program grants.
Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 97, noes 1.
Ayes 97, noes 1. The bill is passed.
And House Bill 646, a bill to amend and reenact a section of the Code of Virginia relating to the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services related to substance abuse. Report on state plan for substance abuse services.
I'm sorry, the gentlewoman from Richmond City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking to the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the gentlewoman from Petersburg's suggestion, I did take a look at some of the other reports that are duplicative and that no one ever reads that we get at the General Assembly. After reviewing that, I do think that we need to get rid of some of those reports, but it would be way more efficient if we did them all at one time. And for that reason, I ask that you vote against this bill, and we'll bring a better bill next year.
Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 95, noes 2.
Ayes 95, noes 2. The bill is passed.
Mr. Speaker, that completes the calendar.
Does the clerk have any announcements?
Meeting scheduled for this afternoon. Appropriations will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment of the House up in the 9th floor Appropriations Room. Courts of Justice Committee will meet 1 hour after adjournment of the House in House Room C. This is a change in time for the full Courts Committee. However, Courts Civil Law Subcommittee will meet a 1/2 hour after adjournment of the full committee in House Room 1 here in the Capitol.
Mr. Speaker.
Courts.
Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry.
The gentleman from Salem, Mr. Habib.
Mr. Speaker, Civil Sub will meet as quickly after full as everybody can walk over to the Capitol.
There you have it. The Courts of Justice Criminal Law Subcommittee will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment of the full committee in House Room C over in the GAB.
Mr. Speaker, we will meet immediately upon adjournment of the full courts. The Crim Sub will meet immediately upon adjournment of the full courts committee this afternoon. Thank you.
The Finance Committee, Subcommittee Number 1, will meet at 1 hour after adjournment of the House, approximately 1:45 in House Room D. This is a change for Finance Subcommittee Number 1. Appropriations Committee's Subcommittee on Agriculture, Commerce, Technology, and Natural Resources will meet at 3 o'clock in the 9th floor Appropriations Room. The Agriculture Chesapeake Natural Resource Committee's Natural Resources Subcommittee will meet at 4 o'clock in the 8th floor West Conference Room. Today's Subcommittee Number 4 for Transportation, that meeting has been canceled. No Transportation Sub 4. County, Cities, and Towns Subcommittee Number 2 will meet at 4 o'clock up in 7th West in the GAB. Finance Subcommittee Number 2 will meet at 4 o'clock in the 5th floor East Conference Room. This is a change in time for the Finance Subcommittee Number 2 Subcommittee, 4 o'clock over in 5 East. Then at 5 o'clock, Health, Welfare, and Institutions Subcommittee Number 3 will meet in House Room 2 here in the Capitol. That's a change in location for HWI Subcommittee Number 3. Rounding out today's meetings, the Rural Caucus will meet at 5 o'clock in the 3rd floor East Senate Conference Room. This is a change in time. Looking ahead to tomorrow, Thursday, January 28th, Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus will meet bright and early at 7 a.m. in the 6th floor Speaker's Conference Room. Also at 7, the Transportation Committee's Subcommittee Number 3 will meet in House Room C at 7 o'clock tomorrow. Militia, Police, and Public Safety Subcommittee Number 2, they'll be meeting at 7:30 a.m. in the 4th floor West Conference Room. At 8 o'clock, the Hampton Roads Caucus will meet in the Speaker's Conference Room, the GAB. At 8:30, the Health, Welfare, and Institutions Committee will meet in House Room D. Across the hall, Transportation Committee will meet at 8:30 in House Room C. The Health, Welfare, and Institutions Subcommittee Number 2 will meet immediately upon adjournment of the full committee in House Room D tomorrow morning. The Appropriations Public Safety Subcommittee will meet at 10 o'clock up in the 9th floor Appropriations Room. House Committee on Rules will meet tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the 6th floor Speaker's Conference Room. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 in House Room 2. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 in House Room 1 here in the Capitol. 11 o'clock. House Republican Caucus will meet at 11 a.m. in House Room 1. Please, announcements I have at this time, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox.
Speaker, I move when the House adjourn today to adjourn to reconvene tomorrow at 12 noon.
The gentleman from Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox, moves that when the House adjourn today to adjourn to reconvene tomorrow at 12 noon. As many as favor that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. That motion is agreed to. The gentleman from Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House do now adjourn.
Gentleman from Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox, moves the House do now adjourn. As many as favor that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. That motion is agreed to. The House stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.